All right, what's going on YouTube? Today we're going to talk about the new perks that are going to be introduced October 15th. We're going to go over what they are, what type of impact I think they're going to have, where I think they're going to be useful for, where you can get them, if there's any named items that you can get them from October 15th. And we're just going to go over everything that we can find, right? And we're going to give it kind of an overall ranking. First, we're going to start with this new perk, Empowered Cleave. If you type it into New World Database, there is currently no item that you can get it on. So you have to get it as a craft mod, which is the Empowering Animus. You get that. Let's see if we click on it, see if it tells us. See if it says. I have another video that actually shows it. So you get this craft mod from the Well of Fortune is where you get it from. You can only buy one in a 24-hour time frame. So let's see. What does it do? That is a good question. Empowered Cleave, PvP only. Hitting two players with a single melee attack grants Empower, increasing damage for the next 2 hits within 5 seconds by 20%. 3-second activation cooldown. So my personal opinion is this is pretty cool. My personal opinion is I'm going to use this on my build because I run melee builds. And let me see if I can bring it up. I'm gonna try to give you perks that would compete in that slot. Because let's see, does it say? It says right here, can be used when crafting rings, right? So what are the competing perks for this, right? It's going to be things like infected, base duration of diseases you apply lasts 33% longer, which is good. And it's those types of perks across the board, like enfeebling and stuff like that. That makes those debuffs last longer, which are good perks. They are. It's going to be perks like what else? Invigorated Punishment, which is also a PvP only perk. Abilities deal 1% bonus damage per debuff on player, max of 10. A lot of people like running this because it's just free free damage, right? But it just depends on, does the player you're attacking have debuffs on you? I don't think it's that great of a perk in my opinion. It's free. It is free damage when they have a bunch of debuffs on them. So the other big one I would say is Mortal Empowerment as far as PvP goes, which is what we're talking about, right? Because this perk is PvP only. Mortal Empowerment, PvP only. Player kills grants a 2% damage bonus that lasts 2 minutes or until you die. This can stack 10 times. So that is, if you get 10 kills without dying and don't break that 2-minute time frame, you could potentially get 20% bonus damage, right? That's great. That's what a lot of top tier PvP players use and OPR and stuff. But that one, if you're having that one's so situational. Like if you're having a great game, that's going to be awesome to use, right? And I'm not necessarily saying that this is, better. This new perk, Empowering Animus, the Empowered Cleave, because you have to hit 2 players with a single melee attack, and it grants you Empower, increasing damage for the next 2 hits within 5 seconds by 20%. So you can get that 20%, which you would have to have a max stacks for the other perk every 3 seconds, right? And you know, I'm sure once you get the hang of using this, you're going to have a pretty decent uptime on that 20%. Granted, it's fighting more than one person, which let's be honest is I would say, you know, one of the more important times to have it. You know, because if it's a 1v1, it's a 1v1, you know, you're not at a disadvantage as far as the amount of players. So if there's more than one, you can get this active fairly often, get that extra damage, hopefully take one of them out of the fight, then it's a 1v1. I think this is a great perk. I'm 100% going to be running this in PvP and like OPR and stuff like that. So I would rank this as like an S tier perk uh, for PvP. So you can't currently get any named items that have it. So you just have to go to the Well of Fortune, buy it with, which we'll take a look. Let's click on it. You need 75 mystic doubloons. That's the recipe to get the craft mod. So if you have a named ring, or if you are going to craft something from scratch, this can be added to it. Now, I will say, which I think is kind of stating the obvious, if you're not a melee player, it's a F. It's not even you can't even use it, right? Um, so really, it's only viable for melee players. All right, so moving on to the next new perk that's going to be introduced October 15th is going to be Thorny Reflection. This is going to be the same situation as the last perk we looked at. Actually, is it? Hold on. Let's just verify that. Is there any named items? No. Hold on. Thorny Reflection. No. There's not. So there is no current item, named item that will drop with this on it. Like I said, it is going to be the same as the last one. If we click on it, this is the craft mod, Reflective Animus. That's the name of it. It's going to be the same way you get it from the Well of Fortune. Let's just click on it. Down here it says the recipe, 75 mystic doubloons. Same thing. If you have a named item and you want to add a perk to it, or if you're crafting something from scratch, and let's see what can you craft this on? Let's see. Can be used when crafting chest or hand armor. So there's only two pieces of things that it can be put on: chest and hand armor. Uh, what is it? What does it do? Let's read it. Thorny Reflection, PvP only. Taking a critical hit will inflict nature damage back at the target equal to 7% of your weapon damage, and reduces the target's critical chance by 10% for 3 seconds. So uh, you can, I would imagine, have 2 stacks of this. No, I don't think we'll be able to see. Because if it had a name item with it on it, it might give us more specific details on how many stacks you can have. But let's just assume that you can have it on the 2 pieces, the chest and the hand. So that would equal 14% weapon damage when you take a critical hit from somebody. And it'll reduce their critical chance by 20% for 3 seconds. Let's see. I would say it's good. There is a lot of new perks. Even I just put out another video that has items specifically from the sandworm that has illegal perk combinations. Mainly perks that were only on weapons are on armor, and it appears you can only get them from the sandworm. So there is a lot going on as far as new builds go, what perks are going to be used, if these new perks are actually better than the old ones. Um, and it's limited real estate, right? Like you only get 3 perks per an item, right? And you have 5 pieces of armor, 15 perks. Are you really going to use 2 of those slots to use this? I'm going to say it wouldn't be a bad choice. And again, let's try to think of what builds this would be viable, like would be good for, or which builds it would not be good for. I would say right off rip, I would say this would probably be good for a tank, right? Because the tank is going to be getting a lot of aggro. The tank is going to be getting hit by a lot of people. And it says right there a 1 second cooldown. So it's not necessarily going to affect every single person that's hitting the tank, but it only has a 1 second cooldown. So it's going to be putting out a decent amount of damage. But you got to keep in mind it's 7% of weapon damage. So if they're running 500 con, how much damage is it actually going to be doing, right? But nevertheless, it's free damage. I think tanks will probably throw it on them. Again, PvP tanks, it will not work in PvE. But overall, I'm going to say I would give it an A rating. I mean, I don't think it's necessarily like a must have perk, like your build will not work without it. Is it very interesting? Does it have some applications that'll help you in or win a fight? Absolutely does. Absolutely. And in a way, it has so you have 3 perks, right? And generally you want to put like 2 defensive perks on your armor. And I would say this may be the only perk that I can think of at the moment that actually in my eyes qualifies as a defensive and an offensive perk, because it's offensive obviously because it's doing damage to your opponent, but it also reduces attackers critical chance, and crits do a lot of damage. So if they're doing 20% less crit chance on you, it's a really good perk. It is. It's a really good perk. So I think we went over everything that we can for this one. There's no named items you can get it on. We went over, you can get it at the Well of Fortune, 75 Mystic Balloons, 24-hour cooldown once you buy it. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Moving on to the next one. The next perk we're gonna go over is impeded, or I'm sorry, unimpeded, which is on one named item and has a craft mod. So the named item is Hopelight Amulet. What this perk does is unimpeded. Potency of slows on you are reduced by 30% as long as you have not have not been exhausted in the last 10 seconds. I think this is a super cool perk uh, from my melee perspective, because one of the things that will prevent me from putting down damage when I need to, or getting out of a situation that that's going to end up in my death, uh, is going to be being slowed. So again, this is something that I am going to 100% be running for PvP. And um, based on the perk bucket where it's listed on here, you're going to be able to run health, which is pretty much mandatory on an amulet. And the second perk you can run is going to be some sort of protection like thrust protection, flame protection, slash protection. And then you're still going to have this unimpeded, right? That would be a bis amulet. I would say it's pretty much viable for every build except probably tanks because their job is to stay stationary at a point and just take abuse. So I would say it's pretty viable for most builds outside of a tank. And again, I will 100% be running this as soon as I can. If you don't get that named item, the other way would be from this craft mod, silver oil, which I'm pretty sure you get at the Well of Fortune also. Let's see, can we click on it to get any more additional information? Let's see, hold on, let's okay, so we click on that. Just keeps bringing us back to the same thing. Let's see what happens if we click here. Is it gonna say? Oh, I'm sorry. I take that back. I think how you get this is actually not from the Well of Fortune. How you get this would be to salvage one of these items, which is definitely something new, right? This is not something typical, but how you're gonna get this craft mod, was it silver oil? Is going to be to have one of these items. And I don't know what the rate is. I don't know if it's 100% or what. But having one of these items, you salvage it and you get the craft mod. So pretty cool. Again, I would probably give it an A to an S tier. Um, and again, so one thing that I think is super cool is like most players know that stamming yourself, aka exhausting yourself using your entire stamina bar, uh, is a quick recipe for death. And having this as a consequence will definitely make, I know myself, a better player because I will be a lot more conscious about stamming myself because I want to utilize this perk and its benefits. So yeah, this is great. This is really good. All right, moving on to the next one. We have Hasted Vigor, another new perk coming October 15th. Um, there is currently 3 named items that come with Hasted Vigor on it. So let's take a look. It's the Hope Light shoes. There's 3 of them. We have heavy, medium, and light. Hasted Vigor. What is it? Hasted Vigor. Potency of incoming damage over time effects reduced by 7% per armor piece with this perk. And taking a hit while infected with a dot damage over time will grant 10% haste for 5 seconds. Let's click and see what it says about it. I wanted to see what armor. Hold on. All right, so I wanted to see what items you can have this on, and it just says armor. So apparently, any armor you can craft it on it, uh, and it stacks. Right? We don't know if you can stack it 5 times or what, but this is a pretty cool one. This is another cool one. So there are certain weapons like the fire staff, even the rapier. So basically, like anything that is going to apply fire or smolder or bleed to you, this is going to limit the damage you take from those weapons. There's a lot of abilities that a big portion of its damage comes from the damage over time effect, like the fire staff, like I said, and like bleeds and stuff. So this definitely is useful. Definitely useful. And then again, it says, and taking a hit while infected with a dot will grant you 10% haste for 5 seconds. So, it's basically getting you either an escape route, giving you that additional haste, or it's going to give you that haste to go finish off that kill or go try to at least. I think this is a great perk. Again, the issue comes down to real estate, right? You have 15 perks on your armor. Is this going to make the cut? I think it just depends on what build you're going for. But again, just to, give it kind of a blanket statement here. Um, Assuming you don't have too much haste on your build to where you're over cap, like haste cap, because then obviously anything over cap is just a waste, right? But if this is like, if you have this on your build, if you have 5 pieces of this, that'll put you at 50% haste when it procs, which is cap, right? So as long as you don't have any other haste, you might be able to use different abilities in your weapon tree. You don't have to run keen speed. This could save you a lot of opportunities in your other, in different places in your build to do more damage. So, the thing is with any build is if it all synchronizes, it's going to be good, right? At the end of the day. And if you can make this synchronize with the rest of your build, uh, and then another thing I'll bring up, the whole uh reduced damage over time damage. If this stacks with the desert sunrise, that's a huge portion of damage from damage over time effects. So I'm gonna say again, between an A and an S tier, as long as you make this work within your build, this is a really good perk. Yeah. I mean, so far we have one more perk to go over, guys. And honestly, none of them have been bad. None of them have been bad. So the last one we're gonna go over is penetrating the empowered. So we looked this up in New World Database. We're in the open beta. Uh, so we're for this one, we have a list of named items that's going to come with this perk, and we have the craft mod to add to a different named item or crafting from scratch, adding it to it. So let's start off by looking at the craft mod. It's abrasive ore is what it's called. And what it does, penetrating the empowered, PvP only, which side note, guys, um, the community has like kind of been upset with the lack of um content for PvP. I'm pretty sure every single new perk is PvP only. So I would say that's a W for the PvP community. I love new perks. Uh, I think that during this whole process, getting to October 15th and even after, we're gonna just keep finding out new stuff, right? So maybe there's more perks that we don't know about. It's not looking like it, but you never know. Uh, so what does this perk do? PvP only. Critical hits against empowered players will have 10% armor penetration and reduce the duration of empowers on them by 7%, 1%, 1 second reduction cooldown. Uh, if you guys play PvP, if you guys know this game, you guys will know one of the, if not the best single perk in PvP on weapons is penetrating backstab, which does 27, I believe 27% armor penetration during backstabs. Um, and this says this can be used when crafting weapons other than shields. Um, so if you could stack this 5 times on armor, this would be absolutely broken, but as you see, it can only be on weapons, right? So, this will not stack with, you cannot stack this multiple times because, you know, you just can't. If you had it on both weapons, if you hit them once and hit a crit for that 10% armor penetration and then switch to another weapon that has this perk on it, it's still only gonna have the 10% armor penetration. So how good is this, right? Um, I'm gonna say this is pretty good. I'm gonna say this is pretty good, and I'm gonna explain my theory, right? Because currently, I would say there's two, really one, but we'll just lump two in there. Two perks that are similar that I can think of that are similar to this in PvP, which is, like I said, penetrating backstab, which does do 27% armor penetration, but it has to be a backstab. That's the most important thing. It has to be a backstab. This does not. And I know a lot of light DPS do their CCs, go behind you, do their little chain. They get that 27%, which is much better than 10%, right? But this is all attacks, and it reduces the duration of empowers on them by 7% with only a 1 second cooldown. So while you're attacking them from the front, side, back, whatever, you're reducing their empower by 7%, every second. Granted, they have to be critical hits, right? And as I just made a YouTube video, just literally not even an hour ago, on some illegal perk combinations, which if you love perks and theory building for New World, check it out because it's one of the things I went over. Is one of the illegal perk combinations is putting keen, was it keen awareness, keen whatever, on an armor piece. And if you have keen on everything that you can, which unfortunately would, you would get the most from SNS because you could have it on a piece of armor with what I showed in my other video. You can have it on a shield, you can have it on your weapon, and you can have it on a ring. That's 4 sources of additional crit, right? Um, so crit is going to be a major uh, factor with the new meta that's coming out because there's a lot of empower stealing, there's a lot of crit chance. All of that is going to be very important. Um, so based on this only being allowed to be on weapons, what would I rank it at? Obvious. I'm just gonna state the obvious here. This is obviously an F tier perk for a healer. No use for it, right? Um, Although, I mean, as it would never be used for a healer, but theoretically, if a healer had this on their life staff, assuming it works for range, if they do hit enemies with light attacks with their life staff, it would lower the enemy's empower time by 7% every second if it's a crit, blah blah blah. Anyway, but everyone else, I would say this is really good. Obviously, if you hit heavier like people with heavier armor, so if you're like in more of a clump situation, you would get more use out of this, right? Because 10% armor penetration is not as effective on a light as on a light opponent, because if their armor rating is 1000 armor rating, 10% armor penetration is only 100, right? But if they have an armor rating of 5,000, that 10% armor penetration is tenfold, or I'm sorry, it's fivefold, right? Five times more penetration from 1,000 armor rating to a 5,000 armor rating. So if you're in a position where you're hitting, beefier opponents, I would say this is S tier. I would say A to S tier again. This is another fantastic perk. For PvP, if I have 3 perks to put on my weapon, I think this would make the cut. I do. I think this will 100% make it on my weapons. Especially since, again, if you watch my other video that I just put out, there's another illegal perk combination that has keen speed on a piece of armor, which means you don't have to run it on your weapon, which frees up 3 damage perks on your weapon. Very interesting builds. Very interesting. I guess maybe complex, maybe because they're new, right? It's not the same old, same old. You have to really put some thought into this new build because it's going to be expensive to craft, and you don't want to make a mistake. You know, definitely when you go to make a build, write down all the pieces, have all the slots available and look at it, have the full picture of it before, you start spending your valuable currency in New World. Because, you know, one thing about New World, if you're a newer player, which honestly, I'm sure better than anyone, resources are scarce. It is very expensive to craft top tier stuff. Um, so guys, that's the video. That's the video. That is all the new perks. That is I went over, did we go over where to get them? I'm sorry, no. We have a few things to go over with this one. Hold on. So, yes, the abrasive ore, which hold on. Let me see. Okay. So this one you're going to get from, says right here, Well of Fortune. This is where you get this craft mod, abrasive ore, 24-hour cooldown, 75 mystic doubloons. It's not going on a named item that already has it. If you're crafting it yourself, you're going to want the craft mod, Well of Fortune. That's how you get it. This perk that we're going over, Penetrating the Empowered, has a handful of weapons that already have it. Do I recommend them? Well, they have Keen, and I'm not gonna lie, when I originally looked at these weapons, these named items, a week ago when I was gonna make a video on them, I was like, Keen's not that good. I will say there's 2 ways to look at it. As I mentioned, there's a illegal perk combination item that is coming out, which, by the way, actually, I'm not even going to tell you. If you want to figure out how to get that these items I'm talking about, go check out the video that I just put out, and you'll see how and where you get it from. But it's a piece of armor that has keen on it. You have it on your armor, you have it on your shield, you have it on your ring and your weapon. That's a lot of crit chance, right? So originally I was like, crit chance, you know? So I could see this going either way. Would I say these are worth getting since they have keen on them? I would say yes. I would say it wouldn't be a bad thing at all if you crafted your own weapon with 3 selected perks. I think could be just as good, maybe even slightly better, maybe. Um, but I do not think having keen on all of these weapons. Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on. Some of them have vicious. Okay, so the sword has vicious, which you can still put keen on if you wanted to. You could have vicious, keen, and penetrating that empower. Uh, so some have keen, some have vicious. Not entirely sure why they made that decision. But let's go over the spear. So we're gonna find out the details about this because this is a named item called Stop Poking Me. And its description says this spear has a long reach, too long and bothersome. This I just have to go over this because it's kind of funny, right? The fire staff is called right, and it says its description at the bottom says that's the sound it makes. So I just have to point that out when I can because it's kind of funny, right? All right, so let's go back to the spear. We're gonna go over a few details on this. Uh, right. So, because we're going over this perk, we already went over everything, but this perk does have named items that you can get that have it on it. Um, Man, that is so cool to see right there, guys. It has 42 dex on it, which is higher than it would currently be. It would be 38 at 700, which is the current max level. And at 725, it is 42. So that's 4 additional attributes. Another educational tidbit, right? That's what we're known for here, being a little educational. We're just going through everything that we can here, guys. So let's take a look. How do you get this, right? Let's see if we can't figure that out. Let's see. Let's see. How do we get this? Well, so I will say this: once you get it, if you want to upgrade it, because it's pretty sure it's going to drop at 700, and then if you want to upgrade it to the 725 max, you're going to do it at a gypsum kiln. I don't know. It says required. Oh, so okay. So I think you might get it. I'm pretty sure you get it at the Well of Fortune. So you get all these named items from the Well of Fortune. Then, if you want to upgrade it, you would take it to the Gypsum Kiln, and you would need one. Stop poking me, which is the spear. You would need 1,250 Mystic doubloons. Uh, you would need a gold cursed coconut, and you would need 300 dark matter. So let's just click on the gold cursed coconut. If you're wondering, if you haven't seen any other content that told you where to get it from, you're going to get it from Cursed Horde chests and Cutlass keys in the new PvP area. That's what it says right here. Let's see if there's any other information we can go over. You get dark matter from pretty much anything, right? Just playing the game, you get dark matter. Like if you're new, it may be a struggle off the bat getting it. I will say on a side note, I don't have the graph up to show you, but there's actually a conversion at the Well of Fortune. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I saw something about this for any new players that are struggling with dark matter. At the Well of Fortune, you can take the Mystic doubloons and you can convert them into dark matter at a some sort of loss of conversion, right? It's like 20 doubloons to 15 dark matter, something like that. Let's see. I think that's everything we want to go over. I think that's everything. So, guys, if you made it this far in the video, just know I appreciate you guys. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. And just know that I'm going to keep making new content for New World. I'm super excited for October 15th. I'm pretty sure I'm going to stay on a legacy server, Valhalla. Sorry, guys. Um, and I'm going to be doing all the in-game content. So I'm going to be putting out videos on all the information I can find that I come across, how to do the new raid, which I'm super excited for. I can't wait to do it. Getting my hands on all these new weapons, all these new perks, blah, blah, blah. So if you enjoyed watching the video, subscribe. I'm going to be putting more content out for New World. The best way to support me is check me out on Twitch. I go live there almost every single day. I'm streaming solely New World. I love this game. I have getting close to probably 4,000 hours into the game. So, yeah, guys, until next time, see you later. Have a good one. Peace.